21-year-old Lauren A.G. lived in Tennessee with her mother, stepfather, and 3 siblings. While describing Lauren, her mother has said she was full of sugar with a little bit of spice. Lauren was such a friendly girl. She knew no strangers. Everyone she met became her friend. She absolutely adored her friends, her boyfriend, and she had such a bright future ahead of her. In the summer of 2015, Lauren's friend Hannah invited her to go to Wakefest. Wakefest is a big event that takes place every year in Tennessee on Center Hill Lake. It is designed to promote the sport of wakeboarding, but at night it kind of turns into a big party scene. A bunch of people go with their friends for the weekend. They either stay in cabins or houseboats around the local marina. It sounds pretty fun, to be fair. So that weekend, in July 25th of 2015, Lauren, her friend Hannah's boyfriend Aaron, and his friend Chris went to Wakefest. And Lauren told her mom that they were planning on staying in a cabin by the water. The weekend started off on a good note. Lauren and Hannah were seen by other people having a lot of fun together. They were posting pictures on social media, talking about how excited they were for the weekend. The weather was good, the people were good, the energy was high. The 25th of July was a Saturday. That night, the 4 of them hung out pretty late until around 2 in the morning, and then they were ready to call it a night. Before that moment, Lauren had been under the impression that they really were going to be staying at a cabin, because that's what Hannah told her. But when it came time to actually go to bed, Hannah said, "Change of plans, we're actually not staying in a cabin, we're going to be camping outside and sleeping outside." The place where they wanted to camp was located across the lake's marina. It looks like a hill, honestly, and even though it was incredibly dangerous, people were known to previously camp there, but it was dangerous. There's a 35-foot drop to the lake on one side and a 90-foot drop to the lake on the other side. Lauren was not thrilled about the idea of sleeping there at all. She took a walk to try and see if she could find somebody else that she knew that maybe would let her stay with them. She ran into one of her friends from high school and asked if she could stay with them, but her friend let her know that they did not have any more room. So Lauren didn't really have another option but to go back to the campsite with Hannah, her boyfriend, and Chris. Hannah and her boyfriend were going to be staying together in a tent. Lauren and Chris were supposed to sleep on a hammock that was tied to 2 trees dangling over the water over that 90-foot drop, which sounds so scary. You could not pay me enough money to sleep there. Lauren did not want to sleep in the hammock. She did not want to sleep next to Chris. She wasn't comfortable with any of it, but she did it anyway. The next morning, when they all woke up, Lauren was gone. She just wasn't there. And allegedly, Hannah and the 2 boys just assumed that she woke up early and headed down to the festival by herself. But the entire morning went by, and most of the afternoon as well, with no sighting of Lauren. And this is a big event. A lot of people attend Wakefest, including other friends of Lauren's, and throughout the day, Hannah, her boyfriend, and Chris would walk around, and if they ran into someone else that knew Lauren, they would ask if they've seen her around, but other than that, they really made no effort, did not go out of their way to look for her whatsoever. Around 4:30 p.m. that afternoon, a father and a son went fishing when they found a deceased human body floating in the water. It was 21-year-old Lauren A.G. They called the police, who arrived at the scene, and on their way out to go see the body and assess the situation, they ran into Aaron, Hannah's boyfriend. Aaron was in a canoe paddling out in the same direction that officers were headed, and he was stopped and told to turn around, but Aaron responded by saying, quote, "That could be one of my friends over there," end quote. Even though the body was not visible from where they were at, officers themselves had not set eyes on the body yet. The body had not been identified as Lauren, and nobody else had been notified that there was a body found in the water at all. Yet Aaron seemed to be concerned that his friend's lifeless body was floating in the water, even though he had no reason to, and also had not shown concern about Lauren's whereabouts at all before that moment. A little bit strange, if you ask me. Lauren's body was taken for an autopsy, and she had marks on her back and her shoulders that, to me, almost looked like she could have been dragged. Her body could have been dragged. She had what looked to be a bite-shaped mark on her chest, a mark around her neck that looked like someone could have crushed her throat, and the clothes that she was wearing were not hers. Police spoke to Hannah, Aaron, and Chris, whose story was that they were all together the night before partying. They went to sleep, Hannah and Aaron in the tent, and Chris and Lauren in the hammock. When they woke up, Lauren was gone. That's it. That was their story. Their reasoning for not reporting Lauren missing or not telling anyone that she was missing at all was that they just assumed that she went to go meet up with one of her friends. However, important to note that all of Lauren's personal belongings, including her flip-flops, wallet, and her cell phone, were still at the campsite. Even with all that information, the sheriff's office ruled that there was no foul play. They stated they believed that Lauren fell off the edge of the cliff and either passed away from the fall or drowned. Her death was ruled an accident, and the medical examiner determined that Lauren, quote, "fell from a cliff, landed on rocks, and rolled into the lake," end quote. The official report said that Lauren passed away of blunt force trauma from falling off a steep cliff into the lake and possibly drowned, and literally left it at that. They closed the case. Prior to Lauren's mom hearing the news, she was already concerned for her daughter. First of all, because she didn't think that Hannah was the best of friends to Lauren, and she was worried about her going to Wakefest from the start, but that day she had texted and called Lauren and had not heard back. And when she heard the news and her family was informed, they were devastated. Of course they were. But later on, when they learned that it was ruled an accident and the case was closed, they were furious. They did not agree with the claim that her death was an accident. First of all, Lauren's mom couldn't understand why Hannah, who was Lauren's friend, Aaron, and Chris did did not report her missing. They just went about their day and the remaining of their trip as usual. Lauren's mom was getting weird feelings from them because of their weird behavior. The 27th of July, after Lauren's passing, Chris made an Instagram post and showed Hannah and Aaron on a boat. The caption to that post was, quote, "Best weekend ever." The caption was later changed to, quote, "Wakefest 2015 went pretty good this year. Met some new friends. That made it awesome," end quote. Your friend's life ended. You went there with one person and she's no longer here. She passed away and you're posting pictures saying that it was an awesome weekend? Strange. It's strange. You can't tell me it's not weird. It is weird. Lauren's mom hired a private investigator to help her investigate her suspicions regarding Lauren's death. The PI reviewed the autopsy photos and saw that strange bite mark on her chest and marks that looked to be signs of strangulation across her neck. She also noticed in the autopsy that there was no water found in Lauren's lungs. So how or why could it have been ruled that her death was an accidental drowning when there was nothing proving that? No water found in Lauren's lungs, injuries to Lauren's body that indicate that she was involved in a struggle prior to her death and are not consistent with a fall, symmetrical injuries to Lauren's back and shoulders that would be consistent with a body being dragged, and her clothes and injuries not being consistent with a fall. On top of that, it was determined that if Lauren did fall off from that cliff where she was camping, it would have been impossible for her body to float against the current to the cove where her body was found. They also found out that the detective who investigated Lauren's death had never worked a homicide case and had no training in homicide investigation. And the investigation was just not done properly at all. Even though Lauren had what looked to be a literal bite mark on her chest, there was no testing at all for SA, no DNA taken from underneath Lauren's nails or anywhere on her body. The detective never spoke or interviewed the person who made the 911 call when they found the body. They didn't interview the residents of houseboats that were near where Lauren's body was found, nor did they look for evidence on the rocks or in the water. I mean, like, at that point, what did they do? That would be much of a shorter answer than answering what they failed to do. The private investigator believed, and Lauren's family agreed, that Lauren was already no longer alive when her body was placed in that water. They believed that there was some sort of fight or struggle, that Lauren was fighting back, and as a result of that, she fell back and hit her head, causing that blunt force trauma to her head. They believed that she passed away on land and somebody freaked out, didn't know what to do, and put her body in the water to try and cover it up. They filed a wrongful death suit against Hannah, Aaron, and Chris, alleging they either intentionally, recklessly, or negligently caused Lauren's death. But a judge dismissed the wrongful death suit on the basis that there was insufficient evidence. However, the Tennessee Court of Appeals overturned that decision, so I think that means that her family has the right to pursue a wrongful death lawsuit against Hannah, Aaron, and Chris again if they wanted to. Neither Hannah, Aaron, or Chris attended Lauren's funeral, and they have always denied involvement in Lauren's death and were never charged with anything. I mean, my opinion is they're lying. I'm just so shocked that it was so case closed, she fell, and that's that. This is someone's daughter. This is someone's loved one. How are you not looking into it seriously? Someone's life was lost. I'm sweating now because this makes me angry. That is all I have for today's video. Please let me know your opinions on this because I think it's somewhat of a controversial case. Thank you for spending time with me today and for listening to Lauren's story. I hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy.